Summer is upon us. We're in June, and as far as I'm concerned, we're in the summer. Technically, summer doesn't start for like a couple of weeks. Well, actually, like maybe 1 week from when you're watching this video. I don't know, but it is June, so I am going to be telling you all the books, every single book I would like to try and read over the summer this year. Now, there's probably more that I could put on this list. However, I am a mood reader. I'm really crap at actually stating what books I'm going to read, so I don't want to put too much pressure on myself and say that I have to read all these books. This is an idea of, how many have I collected? 14? I could have got 15. I'm going to make it 15. Hang on. Alright, I've just added another one in, so now I think it's 15 books. So this is a collection of 15 of the books I would really like to try and read over the summer. I've got a mix of genres in here, from fantasy to horror to quite a fair bit of contemporary romance, because at this time of year that is what I slightly lean towards. I am going to be doing a little bit of a themed reading vlog when it comes to contemporary romance at some point over the next month or two, so that kind of feeds into this as well. But it's something that I want to dip my toe into and have a try at, because it is something that I used to read more of when I was younger. I just haven't really read much of it in recent years. Okay, in no particular order, I'm just going to go for paperbacks first, because I got quite a stack of them. Look. Okay, so the one that I just added on as number 15 is The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is the second book in the Bloodsworn trilogy. The first one was fantastic. It felt like God of War in book format. It's an epic story following 3 different characters on paths I assume will link together. There's a little bit of a vengeance theme going on. I read the first book earlier this year and I was waiting for this to come out in paperback, and it is now out. And I want to add more fantasy that's like high fantasy onto this TBR, because I feel like, again, if I'm sat outside all day and I'm just enjoying the sun, it's the perfect time to be able to get stuck into something that might usually feel a little bit daunting. So this is the first book on my summer TBR. From fantasy we jump into horror with The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. This is being adapted into a film called Knock at the Cabin by M. Night Shyamalan, and I'm quite excited for that because he does some really cool films. I think this is about a group of people who think the world is going to be ending and they have to take over this house in order to stop this from happening. So it's a bit apocalypsy, it's horror. I think it's going to be quite violent and aggressive, judging by the cover with the weapons happening on the front. It sounds like it's going to be pretty tense and unpleasant, but I really want to read it and then watch the film. So that's number 2 for the list. This really is a very varied TBR, because now we're going on to Call Me By Your Name by Andrea Aciman. I just know that this is a romance set in the Italian Riviera. I don't really know much more than that. I've never watched the film. I will watch the film after reading the book. I've had this on my TBR for a year or two. Did I buy it last year? I think I might have bought it last year to read in Corfu and I never got to it. I really want to read this one in the summer because it's set in a sunny location. That makes me want to read it even more. The fact that I feel like I can escape through the pages of this book. I'm expecting it to be quite poetic and beautiful in writing style, so I'm intrigued to see if it is. I really want to love this because I know so many people do, so I feel like there's a little bit of hype backing this one for me. Back to fantasy, we've got Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. I bought this one very recently in a video where I went to Mr. B's Emporium of Reading Delights in Bath. If you want to check that video, I will pop it up here. I bought this because the bookseller said it was kind of a satire of itself and it was quite cleverly done and it was a funny fantasy book, and for that reason I feel like it would be a good blend of having a kind of easygoing style read while still reading a fantasy in the summer months, because I definitely noticed that I dip out of reading fantasy at this time of year because it's just not what I reach towards. I feel like in the sun I just want something easy and light to pick up, so I'm trying to put a couple of different fantasies on my TBR, but I really don't know what is happening in this book. It's following somebody and his band who were once the best of the best, the most feared and renowned crew of the mercenaries this side of Heartwild. Their glory days long past, the mercs have grown apart and grown old, fat, drunk, or a combination of the 3. Then an ex-bandmate turns up at Clay's door with a plea for help, the kind of mission that only the very brave or the very stupid would sign up for. It's time to get the band back together. I feel like it's gonna be funny, I hope. I've heard very good things, so this is going on as book number 4. 4? Yeah, 4. I feel like I should have ordered these in some way, but oh well. Then we have got Elif Shafak's The Island of Missing Trees. This is a book that is told from the perspective of a tree, which I just think instantly sounds really interesting. I've heard very good things about this. Is it a romance of sorts? I guess there's romance in it from the sounds of it. It's set initially in 1974 following two teenagers from opposite sides of a divided Cyprus. They meet in a tavern in the city they both call home. The tavern is the only place they can meet in secret, and the tree that is in the centre of this tavern is witness to their hushed and happy meetings and will be there when the war breaks out and the teenagers vanish. Decades later, in North London, 16-year-old Ada has never visited the island where her parents were born. She seeks to untangle years of her family's silence, but the only connection she has to the land of her ancestors is a fig tree growing in the back garden of their home. Okay, so it's not like a romance as such, but I think it's got romantic parts in it, but also sounds like a beautiful story about family and the history of family and potentially a kind of family being torn apart in a way, possibly. I don't know what to expect from it, but the reviews say it's a unique and powerful voice, wonderfully transporting and magical novel, so I think it sounds like it's gonna be really good. Got a couple of romances up next. So we have got The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This I kept seeing this cover about every time I went to Waterstones. I saw this cover and was like, ooh, okay, this looks like a book about books. And then I'd forget I picked it up, read the blurb and put it back down again. But I am giving myself a challenge to try and read a little bit more romances. I used to read a lot when I was a kid, teenager, a lot more romances than I do now. And then I think the older I've got, the less it's interested me, and I don't really need that in my books. But what I do like about romances is it's just an easy, wholesome read usually, and makes you feel good and makes you smile and gives you a little bit of hope. And I think for that reason I would like to try and read a little bit more romance. So I'm gonna see how it goes. I've picked up a couple, and a couple of those you will be seeing on this TBR, so I'm hoping that I can find something I like. This one is following somebody who is meant to be writing swoon-worthy romances, but after a bad breakup, she no longer believes in love. So she's pretty much prepared to kiss her career goodbye. When tragedy strikes and she has to head home, the last thing she expects to see is a ghost at her front door, which is actually the ghost of her new editor. Sparks fly between them, and she tells herself that she can't really be falling for a ghost, even an infuriatingly sexy one. But can Benji help Florence realise that love isn't dead after all? It sounds so cheesy, but I want to give it a go, so we're gonna see how it goes. Also, Ashley Poston wrote the Geekerella series, I think, which I read the first two of. That was a fun series. I enjoyed that. It's a YA series and it's all around Comic-Cons and stuff. I like the first ones in that series, so I'm willing to give this one a go. I feel like it could be good. I picked up my first Emily Henry book recently. I got You and Me on vacation. I have heard so many good things about Emily Henry's writing, so I'm here to give this book a go. And you might see another Emily Henry book on this TBR in a little bit, just saying. This is following two people who I think could go on holiday together quite a lot. And they have one last trip together after 12 summers together. And this could be the trip that makes them realise they're not just friends after all. This one's got travel, which makes me happy, and it's set in the summertime. Again, there's a theme here with why I want to read these books. I feel like it could be fun. I know that a lot of people have enjoyed it, so this is one of two Emily Henry books on this TBR. One more paperback romance on the list. This is Yinka, Where Is Your Husband by Lizzie Damiola Blackburn. I saw this one when I was looking at the other two I've just showed you, and this one out of the three of them is the one that I think sounds like I'm going to enjoy it the most personally. So this is following Yinka, who wants to find love, but her problem is that her mum wants to find it for her. She's got too many aunties who frequently pray for her delivery from singledom, plus there's her preference for chicken and chips over traditional Nigerian food, and a bum that she's sure is far too small as a result. And the fact that she's 31 and doesn't believe in sex before marriage might be a bit of an obstacle too. Her cousins got engaged and she feels that she needs to find a date for the wedding. She is armed with a totally flawless, incredibly specific plan, but will she find herself a husband? And what if the thing she really needs to find is herself? This one sounds like it's going to be really good fun. I feel like when you've got family involved in books like this, I'm currently reading Dial A for Aunties, which is all centric around family getting involved in romance. I feel like it's just a recipe for chaos, and I love the sound of it. So out of the three romance books I've just shown you, this is the one I'm most excited about. A couple more paperbacks left. We have got Frankenstein by Jeanette Winterson. I picked this one up a couple of months ago at an indie bookshop. It was recommended to me, and it just sounds completely different and very interesting. I feel like I'm going to have to read you the blurb for this one, which I've pretty much been doing anyway, but you got to cut me some slack because I have not been forming sentences well today, so the fact that I have managed to get through over half of this video is impressive to me, so let me have it. As Brexit groups Britain, Rye, a young transgender doctor, is falling in love. The objective of their misguided affection, the celebrated AI specialist Professor Victor Steen. Meanwhile, Ron Lord, just divorced and living with his mum again, is set to make his fortune with a new generation of sex dolls for lonely men everywhere, ranging from 1816, when 19-year-old Mary Shelley pens her radical first novel, to a cryonics facility in present-day Arizona, where the dead wait to return to life. Frankenstein shows us how much closer we are to the future than we realise. This could terrify me, I completely understand that, and there's no real reason that I want to read this over the summer as such. I just want to read it, and the summer is now, so it's going on the TBR. I feel like it's going to terrify me, but I'm okay with that because it sounds like a good book. Last of the paperbacks and another fantasy, we have got N.K. Jemison's The Fifth Season. I have got this trilogy on my TBR. I think I only got it like mid to late last year, so I'm a little bit behind on the hype for this one. But I'm really excited to give it a go. I know a lot of people have really enjoyed this, and when a book is so hyped, it kind of sends me in one or two directions. Either one, I need to read it immediately, or two, I worry the hype won't live up to the hype and I avoid reading it so that I don't feel like I'm disappointed. I do feel like this one's going to live up to the hype. I've heard so many good things about this. It's obviously, as you can see from this giant sticker here, winner of the Hugo Award. Like, it's clearly going to be fantastic. I don't know why I've not picked it up sooner. As for what this is about, the tagline on the blurb says, "This is the way the world ends for the last time." It starts with the great red rift across the heart of the world's sole continent, spewing ash that blots out the sun. It starts with death, with a murdered son and a missing daughter. It starts with betrayal and long dormant wounds rising up to fester. This is the stillness, a land long familiar with catastrophe, where the power of the earth is wielded as a weapon, and where there is no mercy. Am I right in thinking that this is elemental magic, or have I made that up? I feel like I remember seeing that somewhere. Well, this is the last paperback on my summer TBR. Now let's go on to the 5 hardbacks. So I might well have read this by the time you're watching this video, I'm not sure, but I'm putting it on here anyway because I'm counting these as books I basically want to just read over June, July, August, September time. So I have gone for Grady Hendrix's How to Sell a Haunted House. The reason being, this keeps being put on my TBRs. I really want to read it. I love Grady Hendrix's writing style, and I don't know why I haven't read it yet. And I think I have this pretense in my head that I shouldn't be reading horror at this time of year. Horror is for cozy autumnal days when it's raining outside and I can sit inside under a blanket. It feels strange to me to sit in the sun, sunbathing and reading a horror book. But I really want to read horror. I love horror. It's one of my favourite genres, I think. It's something that I'm discovering more of each year, and I really enjoy it. So I'm going to read this in the summer. I am. This is definitely happening. This is following a brother and sister whose parents pass away, and they have to club together to go to their old house to prepare it to sell, but the house has other ideas. It's a haunted house story, but I've been told that it's a little bit different to your typical haunted house story. I think there's some creepy dolls involved. I'm really looking forward to this. I've seen quite a few people split with their opinions on this, so I'm looking forward to seeing where I sit on that. I think I'm going to enjoy it because I really love the Final Girl support group, which was the second to last book that Grady Hendrix published, and I think that it's taken a little bit of a different tone in writing style, so I assume this one's going to vaguely follow that, so looking forward to this one. I think one of the books I'm most excited about on this TBR is First Time for Everything by Henry Fry. I read In at the Deep End by Kate Davis a while ago, like literally years ago, and I have been looking for something that gives me that kind of vibe ever since. It was fantastic, and this might just be that book. This is following Danny. He's 27. He's just escaped his parents' tiny fish and chip shop for a proper writing job in London. His beloved collection of houseplants, yes, I love houseplants, so I'm happy to have any book with plants in it, thriving. And he's just celebrated his first anniversary with his boyfriend Tops. But his life is thrown into chaos when he discovers an STI clinic that Tops might be cheating on him. And then he and his plants are unceremoniously evicted from his London flat. So he's forced to move in with his best friend Jacob, a flamboyant non-binary artist who Danny's known since childhood, and their eccentric group of friends in East London. For the first time, and with the help of his inscrutable therapist and colourful new housemates, Danny realises how little he knows about himself and slowly starts to question whether he is fine after all. I feel like it could be funny. I think it's going to be a fun contemporary adventure of somebody finding themselves and having all these great experiences. So I'm very excited. Also, I adore this cover. So that's also on the summer TBR. This one was one I bought on recommendations of quite a few people at the Bath Literature Festival. So this is a romantic comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. I have been told that this is a contemporary romance, but not in the way that you would expect. The front of the blurb says life is not a romantic comedy. This is following our main character Sally, who has a series of heartbreaks. She's a successful scriptwriter for a legendary late-night TV comedy show and has long abandoned the search for love. But when her friend and fellow writer begins to date a glamorous actress, he joins the growing club of interesting but average-looking men who get romantically involved with beautiful, accomplished women. Sally channels her annoyance into a sketch, poking fun at his social rule, because after all, the reverse never happens for women. Then Sally meets Noah, a pop idol with a reputation for dating models. But this isn't a romantic comedy, it's real life. Would someone like him ever date someone like her? I think this sounds like it's going to be really good. The bottom of the blurb says that this is skewering all our certainties about why we fall in love. It's witty and a probing tale of how the heart will follow itself no matter what anyone else says. And it's sharp, daring and compassionate. So I think it sounds really good. I said I was going to feature another Emily Henry book on this TBR, and that is Happy Place. This is the WATERSTONES special edition and it's so pretty, I love it. Of course I had to pop this on here. I think this one does sound quite good fun, to be honest. I'm looking forward to diving into Emily Henry's writing a lot and being able to form my own opinions on Emily Henry's writing. This is following a couple who have been together a while. Yeah, it doesn't really specify, but apparently they go together like bread and butter, gin and tonic. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Anyway, they've been together a while and they actually have ended up breaking up and not telling anybody. But they are going on a group holiday and they don't want to ruin it and tell anyone, so they just pretend to still be together for that time, which I assume will involve them falling back in love. I don't know, but that's... I'm already rooting for that, even though I haven't even read the book. Maybe we're going to be introduced to somebody completely different that is going to be a romantic interest. But this is also on my TBR and I think it sounds really fun. That completes the romance on my TBR. My final book is one that my mum has just finished and says is fantastic. So if you'd like a recommendation from my mum, we have got Kate Morton's Homecoming. This is the independent bookshop edition and it's really pretty. I promise I didn't just buy it because it's pretty. It sounds really good as well. I think this is a clever mystery, which has me very excited because I love these kind of books. So it's set in the Adelaide Hills, Christmas Eve 1959. At the end of a scorching hot day, see, sun. Wow, summer. I thought I was getting away okay with this vlog of not stumbling over my words, and then I just did it all in one sentence. Okay, at the end of a scorching hot day, summer setting. Besides a creek in the grounds of a grand country house, a local man makes a terrible discovery. Police are called and the small town of Tambela becomes embroiled in one of the most baffling murder investigations in the history of South Australia. Many years and thousands of miles away, Jess is a journalist in search of a story. Having lived and worked in London for nearly 2 decades, she now finds herself unemployed and struggling to make ends meet. A phone call summons her back to Sydney, where her beloved grandmother, Nora, who raised Jess when her mother could not, has suffered a fall and is seriously ill in hospital. At Nora's house, Jess discovers a true crime book chronicling a long-buried police case, the Turner family tragedy of 1959. It is only when Jess skims through the pages that she finds a shocking connection between her own family and this notorious event, a murder mystery that has never been satisfactorily resolved. I love clever mysteries. I love it when we can look back on them retrospectively. I think this sounds fantastic. I think this is also the chonkiest book on my TBR. Hang on, how many pages is this? Oh, the fear of not spoiling myself by accident. This is 638 pages. I definitely think this is the chonkiest one on there, but it's also one of the prettiest. So that is the books that I would like to read this summer, or at least 15 of them. There's definitely obviously more, but I don't want to be overly ambitious because I don't really know what my reading pace is doing at the moment, so I feel like this is a good place to start. Have you planned out a summer TBR? Please let me know in the comments down below. Also, just to slip it in here because I realise I haven't spoken about it for a little bit, if you are interested in travelling with me, I am hosting a group trip to Bali next year. I'm going to leave all the details linked down below, including the itinerary, the dates, everything that's included in the price. But there are currently, at the time of filming this, some early bird slots still available, which means you get $100 off the total price. If you sign up today, you only have to pay a deposit, and because the trip is over a year away, it gives you plenty of time to be able to save for the full cost. Everything's linked down below, but I'm so excited about this trip, so I just wanted to shout about it a little bit more because going to Bali is a dream destination, and given that I'm talking about all my summer reads, I thought I would mention it. Whilst I'm here, you can also find my Patreon link down below as well, where I do lots of extra content. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will catch you in the next one.